If you retire at 65 and live till 85, you have about 1,000 weeks left. But here's the part nobody talks about. You might only have about 500 weeks of real health and energy to do the things you kept putting off. Those first few years after you stop working, those are the go-go years. I know because I'm living them right now. My name is Robert Martin. I'm 65 years old. I retired at 58 after 35 years as a mechanical engineer in the packaging industry. I started on the shop floor at 23 and worked my way up through plant management, eventually running operations across multiple facilities. I was the guy they called when a site was underperforming. And somewhere along the way, between the long shifts and the spreadsheets and the production deadlines, I realized I was building something quietly without really thinking about what it was all for. I want to share some of the lessons I've picked up over these 7 years of being retired, along with some things I've learned from people further down the road than me. Some of these might challenge what you've been told about retirement. Others are going to confirm what you've quietly suspected for years. All of them come from real experience, not theory. I'm going to start with the money lessons because that's the part most people fixate on. But honestly, the ones after that matter more. And I say that as someone who spent 35 years being very disciplined with money. Lesson 1. Money is time freedom. I used to think money was a number on a statement. The 401k balance going up, the net worth creeping higher. But once I stopped working, I realized money is really just a tool that buys you time. The ability to spend your days how you choose instead of how circumstances force you to. Here's what I've learned. Don't hoard money if it means missing experiences during your healthy years. The goal is not to die with the biggest balance. It's to live fully while your body still lets you. You can never buy back the memories you never make. Lesson 2. Rent objects, buy experiences. Objects lose their shine pretty fast. That new car smell fades. But experiences, they actually grow in value over time. A friend of mine bought himself a brand new luxury SUV right when he retired. Nice car, barely talks about it now. But a trip my wife Linda and I took to Portugal 2 years ago, we still bring that up at dinner probably once a month. If you've got the choice between a new thing and a new memory, pick the memory. Lesson 3. The deathbed test. This is a framework that really changed how I think about spending. When you're 90 or 95, are you going to care more about the extra $50,000 sitting in your account, or about the time you spent with your grandkids, or the trip you almost didn't take? I've never met anyone in their 90s who said, "I wish I had saved more instead of living." If you're oversaving and it's costing you experiences during your healthiest years, something's off. Lesson 4. Energy management over time management. When I first retired, I had all the time in the world, and I wasted a lot of it because I didn't realize that time without energy is basically useless. Energy management is more important than time management, especially in retirement. I started paying attention to what gives me energy and what drains it. For me, time in the workshop gives me energy. Certain social obligations drain it. I redesign my weeks around that. My advice, audit your own energy. Build your retirement around what fills you up and minimize what empties you out. Lesson 5. The 90-second rule. There's a neuroanatomist named Jill Bolte Taylor who discovered that an emotion runs through your body in about 90 seconds. After that, you're choosing to stay in it by replaying the thought that triggered it. This one hit me hard because I used to carry frustration around for hours, sometimes days. Something about aging or the news or some minor thing going wrong would set me off and I'd stew in it. Now I try to notice the feeling, let it pass, and then actively shift to something I'm grateful for. We have more control over our emotional state than we think. Lesson 6. Combat time acceleration. Here's something strange about getting older. Time speeds up. And it's not just a feeling, there's a reason for it. When you were 10, a year was 10% of your entire life, and everything was new. At 65, a year is less than 1.5%. And if you're doing the same thing every day, it all blurs together. The antidote is novelty. New experiences, new places, new people. Linda and I try to do at least one genuinely new thing each month. Not watching a different show on TV, I mean actually new. A cooking class. A road trip to somewhere we've never been. Visiting a museum we kept driving past. When you create new memories, time feels richer. It slows back down. Lesson 7. Compound living. You probably already know about compound interest. It's how a lot of us built our savings. But the same principle applies to life. Small daily investments in relationships and experiences multiply over time. A phone call to an old friend, a weekly coffee date, a monthly adventure with Linda. These little things compound into something much bigger. a rich, connected, full retirement. The next few lessons are about relationships, and I think these are the ones that surprise me the most. Lesson 8, the relationship bank account. Every interaction you have with someone is either a deposit or a withdrawal. Complaints, criticism, only calling when you need something, those are withdrawals. Genuine interest, showing up, appreciation, those are deposits. In retirement, you suddenly have more time for relationships. Use it to make deposits. And be honest with yourself about which relationships fill you up and which ones leave you drained. Lesson 9, shared challenges. A friend once told me that the strongest friendships aren't built from fun, they're built from going through something hard together. That's why military units or sports teams form bonds that last forever. Linda and I started volunteering together at a local food bank a few years ago. It wasn't easy work, but it brought us closer in a way that just going out to dinner never could. If you can take on a meaningful challenge with your spouse or your friends, do it. It changes the dynamic. Lesson 10. Weak ties matter. Your inner circle is important, but don't underestimate the people you see regularly but don't know very well. The neighbor down the street, the person at the coffee shop, the folks at the community center. These casual connections open doors you didn't expect. I joined a local woodworking club a couple of years ago just to get out of my own workshop. Through that, I ended up meeting people who led me to volunteer work, new friendships, and even a part-time consulting gig I never would have found otherwise. Show up in places where you'll run into new people. Lesson 11. Step outside your comfort zone. Some of the best things I've done in retirement were things I would have talked myself out of 10 years ago. But you don't have to reinvent yourself. It's more about stretching into adjacent territory. I spent my whole career in manufacturing and operations. When I retired, someone asked me if I'd help mentor a few young engineers just starting out. I almost said no. Now it's one of the most rewarding things I do. Whatever your career was, there's a way to use that experience that doesn't feel like going back to work, but keeps you growing. Lesson 12. Optimize for learning, not just comfort. This one's important. If you're always comfortable, you're probably not growing. And comfort in retirement has a way of turning into stagnation if you're not careful. Your 60s and 70s are actually perfect for learning. You've got the time, the resources, and the life experience to put new knowledge into real context. Every new skill you pick up opens a door and keeps your mind sharp. Now, the next few are about creativity and health, and then I'll finish with what I think are the 3 most important lessons of all, which are really about how you design your retirement. Lesson 13, strategic incompetence. Stay deliberately amateur at some things. When you feel like you need to master everything you try, you lose the joy of being a beginner. I picked up watercolor painting a couple of years ago. I'm not good at it. That's the point. The fun is in the learning, the fumbling, the slow progress. Give yourself permission to be bad at something new. Lesson 14. Creativity is like a faucet. People think creativity is some mysterious gift. It's not. It's more like a faucet. Turn it on regularly and the water flows. Leave it off too long and the pipes rust. Start that art class. Write in a journal. Learn that instrument you've been thinking about for 20 years. Push through the phase where everything you create feels inadequate. You're not trying to become Picasso. You're just trying to keep that part of your brain alive and engaged. Lesson 15. Health is the life force multiplier. Everything in retirement, your money, your relationships, your hobbies, your travel, everything is better when you feel physically and mentally good. And everything suffers when you don't. I'd rather have 8 energized hours in a day than 12 draining ones. The retiree who exercises regularly, eats well, and manages stress is living a fundamentally different retirement than the one who doesn't. I'm not perfect at this, but I know it matters more than anything else on this list. Lesson 16. Know the difference between morning you and evening you. I figured this out pretty quickly after retiring. I'm a different person at 7 a.m. than I am at 7 p.m. My best thinking, my best energy, my best focus, it all happens in the morning. So I stopped wasting those hours on things that don't matter. Important projects, creative work, anything that needs real focus, that happens before noon. TV, light reading, winding down, that's for the evening. Match your activities to your energy, not just your calendar. Lesson 17. Document your journey. Your brain likes seeing progress, but without documentation, progress can feel invisible and motivation fades. I started keeping a simple retirement journal about a year after I retired. Nothing fancy, just a few lines at the end of the day about what went well. Some days it's just something small, like noticing a bird building a nest in the backyard. But looking back at where I was 6 months ago reminds me how much has changed and keeps me moving forward. At a minimum, try writing down 3 wins from your day. They don't have to be big. Now, 2 mental models that have helped me make better decisions in retirement. Lesson 18, second-order thinking. Most people think one step ahead. What happens next? But the better question is, what happens after what happens next? When Linda and I thought about whether to stay in our house or move to a retirement community somewhere warmer, we didn't just think about year 1. We thought about year 5. What would our social network look like? How far would we be from the kids? Would we actually like the daily life there or just the weather? That kind of thinking saved us from a move we probably would have regretted. Lesson 19, inverse thinking. Instead of asking, how do I solve this problem? Try asking, what am I doing that's creating this problem? Or, what would guarantee this gets worse? When I went through a rough patch about 2 years into retirement, feeling restless and a little lost, I stopped asking, how do I get happier? And instead asked, what am I doing right now that's making me unhappy? The answer was obvious. I had no structure, no purpose, no social routine. Flipping the question made the solution clear. And finally, 3 lessons about designing your retirement, because nobody hands you a blueprint for this. Lesson 20, test, don't just plan. You can't think your way into the right retirement, you have to test it. Plans are hypotheses. They need to be tested against reality. Before Linda and I committed to anything big, we tried small experiments. We volunteered in areas that interested us before making long-term commitments. When we briefly thought about relocating, we rented in the area for a while first instead of buying right away. We learned pretty quickly it wasn't the right fit. Testing saved us time, money, and regret. Lesson 21, design your own metrics. Don't measure your retirement by what your neighbor's doing or what society says success looks like. Define it for yourself. For me, success means deep relationships, staying physically active, continuing to learn, and having the freedom to be generous with my time and my money. For you, it might be something completely different. That's fine. But you have to decide what it is, or someone else will decide for you. Lesson 22, regular life reviews. Monthly reviews prevent yearly regrets. Small course corrections prevent major life mistakes. I sit down at the end of every month and ask myself a few simple questions. What brought me joy? What drained my energy? What do I want more of? What do I want less of? These small adjustments compound over time into major improvements. It sounds simple because it is, but almost nobody does it. Retirement is shorter than you think, but if you're intentional about it, these can genuinely be the best years of your life. They have been for me, and I'm only 7 years in.